Shalom. I want to give all the praise and all the glory and all the honor unto Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawahshi, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And this is Shabbai from GMS Denver. And I'm going to go in on Luke 23 through the Spirit. All right, it says, "And the whole multitude of them arose and led him unto Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, We found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar, saying that he himself is Hamashiach, a king." And this is kind of the spirit brothers have too. We're in the spirit of Yahawahshi. I remember one time I had to go to court for I think it was probably a speeding ticket, or it might even have been the time when I went to go with my daughter. That's what it was. I went to go. My daughter had she had an accident, and we had to go to court. You know, she was underage at the time, and I remember going into the courthouse because I hadn't been in the courthouse, for a while. And I remember sitting there thinking, meditating while I was waiting, and in my head saying, we're the real judges. The Lord's servants, the prophets, are the real judges of the earth. All right, this judge here that was going to see my daughter, for her traffic violation. Those aren't the real judges. The true judges are the men of Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawahshi. We're actually the true judges of the earth. So Yahawahshi, he's like in his saying, hey, that he himself is Hamashiach, a king, and we're kings and judges. So if you're in that mindset that you're a king and you're a judge, then that's the way you're supposed to be. We're like Yahawahshi's baby bros, So we should be in that same spirit. But anyway, let's keep reading. Verse 3. "And Pilate asked him, saying, Art thou a king of the Jews? And he answered him and said, Thou sayest it." Right? Staying humble. You don't want to give the enemy too much, It says, "Then said Pilate to the chief priests and to the people, I find no fault in this man." All right? So he was before Pilate without fault. And they were more fierce, saying, He stirreth up the people, teaching throughout all Jewry, beginning from Galilee to this place. And it's going to be, these people are going to come against us. We got to know that persecution is coming. And we got to know and be prepared spiritually and mentally, physically, for the persecution that's about to come onto the men of Yahawah, Bashem, Yahawahshi, the true judges of the earth. You're going to have a bunch of people coming up against us. We saw him on the street corners. He was down talking America. He was coming up against, coming up against Babylon. They don't say Babylon, they say America. But the thing is, we're going to have a bunch of accusers too. The Lord's servants. Verse 6. "When Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked whether the man were a Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged unto Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who himself also was at Jerusalem at that time." So Pilate, he didn't really want to persecute Yahawahshi through the Spirit. He was like, he's in Herod's jurisdiction. He sent him to Herod. See? It says, "And when Herod saw Yahawahshi, he was exceeding glad, for he was desirous to see him of a long season, because he had heard of the many things of him, and he had hoped to have seen some miracle done by him." So it was like, Yahawahshi, he was famous in the land, and you can say infamous, in this case, because these people, these Romans, these Edomites, they were against him. So in their eyes, he was infamous, and in our eyes, he's righteous and famous, right? But in the Romans, he's infamous, But they weren't there. They didn't want to see him because he had faith. He wanted to see him because he just wanted to see him do a miracle, And that's where miracles can't be done, when you lack faith, right? Let's get that real quick. Because if you don't have faith in this knowledge and this truth, there's not going to be no miracles coming, or spiritual powers coming to the brother. Certain brothers, if you don't have that faith, those miracles are not going to happen with brothers who lack faith. You're going to have faith. That goes for anybody. Watch, let's get Matthew 13 and 58. The very last verse. It says, I'll read 57. And when they were offended in him, and they were offended in him, but Yahawahshi said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and in his own house. Right. So you can't expect to be considered a prophet. A lot of our family members, they don't really believe we're prophets. Right? They haven't been given that faith, and they don't have the understanding. They've been raised up in Babylon, and all these pagan pastors, they tell you like, hey, there's no prophets. They don't say they're prophets today in this age, and we know that there are. But see, a lot of our family members are caught up in that darkness. They don't understand that the prophets are in every age. You can read about that in Wisdom of Solomon 7:27. I'm not going to read it, but because I'm on a little bit of a time constraint here at the plantation. It says, and he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. You see? So a mighty work would be a miracle. So there's not going to be no miracles coming to men who lack faith. No spiritual powers are coming to men who lack faith. All right? 23, let's go to verse 9. It says, then he questioned him in many words, but he answered him nothing. Right? And that's smart, because what do they tell you when they arrest you? These cops here in Babylon. They say anything you say or do can be used against you in a court of law. So Yahawahshi had that spirit, that wisdom, to just remain silent. Because a lot of times, Jake go into the courthouse and end up hanging himself just by speaking. Or admitting to shit, That's why they talk. That's why they do interrogations and shit. Because they know eventually if they keep questioning you and beating you up with the interrogation, eventually you speak, and that's when a lot of Jake fucks up. But Yahawahshi, he was wise, so he didn't say nothing. There's nothing you can't. If you go to court, the best thing, or if you get arrested, or anything, the best thing you can do is remain silent. That's why they say you have the right to remain silent. So Yahawahshi exercised that right. Verse 10. And the chief priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. Right, you're going to have all the accusers in the world. And that's the word, same thing's going to happen to us. All right? It says, and Herod with his men of war set him at naught and mocked him and arrayed him in a gorgeous robe and sent him again to Pilate. In the same day, you see, so they mocked Yahawahshi. In the same way they're going to mock us, In the same day, Pilate and Herod were made friends together. For before they were at enmity between themselves. And that happens, Like and these dudes, they didn't even like each other. until they were both coming. They had a common denominator, which was to, come up against Yahawahshi, and that made them friends. And you say that with women and shit, A woman, for instance, I remember when I was in high school, I had these two girls, these two women, and I was dealing with, and I remember they used to hate on each other, right, the whole time. And then when I ended up breaking up with the second one, because the first one, she actually broke up with me, and then she wanted to get back with me once your boy got with this other girl. She was both the fine Edomites back in the day. I went to high school that had a lot of Edomites. And I had the first girl, she dumped me, right? She broke up with me, and I liked her and shit, and so I was like, oh damn. But then the Lord had given me another dime, bad at Edomite, and just this one, the one I'm talking about. Actually, she by destiny, right? She's actually with the former UFC fighter. Tito Ortiz, right? That's her husband now. But that was my girl up in back in the day. So anyway, I had got with her, and then shoot, let me fix this music, Salakia. So I got with her, and then that girl that dumped me, she was trying to get at me, because you know how women are. They see you with another woman, and all of a sudden they want you back. So that happened, and then finally, when me and the second girl broke up, then all of a sudden, all of a sudden these two girls became buddy. You know what I'm saying? And it was because at that point they were both kind of against me at that point, right? But that's how these Pilate and Herod, they're acting like a couple of women, teaming up, becoming cool. Maybe being friends now. And why? Because of that common denominator. They was coming against Yahawahshi. Verse 13. And Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, said unto them, Ye have brought me this man unto me as one that perverteth the people. And behold, I have examined him before you, have found no fault in this man touching those things whereof ye have accused him. No, nor yet Herod, for I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death is done unto him. They wanted Yahawahshi dead. They want us dead. These people, these 2/3, these heathen, they hate the truth, man. They don't like when we speak uprightly in the streets, They don't like the truth. What was it, Amos 5:10, I think? Yeah, Amos 5:10. They hate him that rebuketh in the gate, and they abhor him that speaketh uprightly. You see? So that's what it is. They hate the ones who speak uprightly. And who's speaking uprightly? It's the men, starting out with the men of GMS, the elders. We're speaking uprightly. We're telling you the correct breakdowns. We're giving you sound doctrine. We're telling you the prophecies according to understanding. This is all speaking uprightly when we do this. And when you're speaking the truth, you make a lot of enemies. Because people don't like the truth a lot of times. Most of the time, I should say. But anyway, let's go back to Luke 23 and 15. Okay, I'm actually at 16. It says, I will therefore chastise him and release him, for of necessity he must release one unto them at the feast. And that was their custom, that they had a custom where they would let one, prisoner go. That was a Roman custom. And it was during that feast. And, Anyway, let's keep reading. 18. And they cried out all at once, saying, Away with this man, and release unto us Barabbas, right? Who for a certain sedition made in the city and for murder was cast in prison. Right, so Barabbas, He was Barabbas, however you say it. He was a murderer, and these people, they would rather release a murderer than the king of Israel, right? Yahawahshi, or Yahawahshi. That's the same thing with us, man. These people, they'd rather have a fucking wicked ass 2/3 wicked ass Edomites off the hook before they let the men of the Lord off the hook. That's how bad their hate is for us. And if you're out there pushing the true gospel, pushing the truth, don't get it twisted. These people don't like you. The majority of them don't like you. The only ones who are going to get it are the elect. The elect is a much smaller number than the masses, the rest of the people, the 2/3 and the heathen. All right. So these people were pleading for this guy Barabbas to be released instead of Yahawahshi. And sedition, that's an act against the government, right? So he was a murderer, and he was against the government also. So he was a rebel. He was like that one dude in that one clip. I'm sure brothers have seen it, where he's like, oh yeah, she's like, how many kids you got? He's like, 23 women, or 23 kids. He had like 23 different moms or something. He's like, real bad man. I know brothers have seen that clip. But anyway, Barabbas, he was a real bad man, right? So let's read verse 19. Who for a certain sedition made in the city and for murder was cast in prison. Pilate, therefore, willing to release Yahawahshi, spake again to them. But they cried, saying, crucify him, crucify him. And I got to get this because it's just fitting for this what we're reading here. Ephesians 4:16, I believe. No, 4:12 maybe. Okay, Galatians. I always get those two mixed up. Salakia. Galatians 4:16, I think. Galatians 4:16. It says, "Yep. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" All right. So just know, brothers, and brothers know, but some of you newer brothers, when you come in the spirit of Yahawahshi, you're going to become enemies with a lot of people because we're coming in the truth, and the world doesn't receive the truth. All right, the scripture speaks on that. The world has a hard time receiving truth. Okay, and brothers who have been in the ministry, with experience, we understand this, and it's easy. This is more for newer brothers or newer people who are listening, who are coming into this knowledge and this truth, who are of the elect. It's more for you to understand that, because like I say, brothers already know that. But it says, verse 22, and he said unto them a third time, why, because this is when they were saying crucify him, why, what evil hath he done? I have found no cause of death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go. And they were instant with loud voices requiring that he might be crucified, and the voices of them and the chief priests prevailed. So he had all the people, all the officials, all the chief priests. And remember, these were these were Israelites. A lot of them were Israelites, because you had chief priests that were, Jake, Israel, hating Yahawahshi. And that's how it is now. They hate us. You got a lot of Jake. They hate us. You see them on the internet talking about, why can't Esau be saved? Why does the so-called white man have salvation? You want to bring him along, But that's not what the scriptures say. But again, the world can't, the majority of the world can't receive truth. I might as well get that verse. It's in John somewhere. Yeah, John 14. It says here, let's see, John 14 and 17, even, okay, let's see. It says right here, even, anyway, I'm looking at these people walk by, Salakia. John 14 and 17, it says, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. Okay? So there it is. The world is not set up. The majority of the people here are not set up to receive the truth, not set up to receive the knowledge. That's why in Luke you had them all. You had the 2/3, the heathen, mainly the 2/3, chanting, "Crucify him, crucify him." Why? Because they don't receive the truth. They're not set up to receive the truth. Okay? Let's see, where am I at? Verse 20. 24. And Pilate gave sentence that it should be as required. And he released unto him that for sedition and murder was cast into prison, whom they had desired, but he delivered Yahawahshi to their will. And as they led him away, they laid hold upon one, Simon a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Yahawahshi. And there followed him a great company of people, and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. All right. So you had women. We can't always get on the women. Yes, these women, the majority of these women are wicked as hell, especially Jake women. But guess what? There are some elect women. The Lord's going to put the Spirit on some of these women to be humbled and to repent. And that's why it says he had a great company following and people and of women. Okay? But Yahawahshi turning unto them said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and weep for your children. You see, and that's Yahawahshi being in that spirit, being in that manly spirit. You know? He was able to endure. That's what we got to do, man. Quit being soft. And you're going through some things in this knowledge and this truth, because you're going to suffer. You're going to be persecuted. You're going to have to, gird up your loins as a man in this truth. And hey, don't worry about us. Worry about yourselves. We know the prophecies. We know what we believe. We know what we stand for. You see? All right, let's read 29. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, Blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bare, and the paps which never gave suck. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, Cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? Right. And see, that's prophecy, because when the missiles hit and everything, and when Yahawahshi comes back, it talks about how the wicked elite, they're going to be wishing that they'd rather have the mountains and the rocks fall on them than to deal with Yahawahshi. It says, and there were also 2 other malefactors led with them to be put to death. Okay, let me remind myself what that word malefactor is, because it's been a minute. Malefactor, KJV meaning. Let's see. Okay. A criminal or an evildoer. All right, that's what it means. So just more criminals. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him, and the malefactors on the right hand and the other on the left. And if you want a good depiction of this, watch that movie, the Book of Clarence, right? right at the beginning of the movie, it shows you like pretty much kind of this scene in a perverted manner. But anyway, verse 34. Then said Yahawahshi, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And and they parted his raiment and cast lots. Right? They were casting lots on who was going to get his clothes after he was put to death. You know how these motherfuckers, Esau and Jake that follows Esau, they'll sell you a fucking baseball that Mickey Mantle threw back in the day, or a fucking jersey that fucking John Elway threw, wore. Shit like that. That's what they were doing with Yahawahshi, our Lord. It says, and the people stood beholding, and the rulers also with them derided him, saying, he saved others, let him save himself, if he be Hamashiach, the chosen of the Most High. Right, because they're looking at it carnally. That's how these people are. They don't see the spiritual. They didn't take account, and this includes the 2/3. They didn't take account that Yahawahshi was actually dying for even those 2/3. He was dying for their sins. Right? But guess what? Those 2/3 in the reincarnation, regeneration, they had to come back, which they're here today. Those same 2/3 that was yelling, crucify Yahawahshi, they're here today. And guess what? They're going to die. They're going to die like a heathen with the missiles. Because these people, they're carnal. They don't understand the spiritual. That's why they don't understand the scriptures, because they're not spiritual people. See? So they'll mock us. They'll think that we're well, you know what? Yeah, they'll look at us as oh, he got what he deserved if they put one of us to death. But they don't know, even, and what does it say, that one verse? He that killeth you will think he's doing the Most High's service. He that killeth you will think he's doing God's service. KJV. Yeah. Because they're carnal. They don't understand the truth. Right? Let's read John 16 and 2. It says, well, I'll read 1. These things, John 16 and 1, these things have I spoken unto you, that ye should not be offended. They shall put you out of the synagogues. Yeah, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth the Most High's service. Right? They think that they're putting us to death and they're doing the Most High's work, because they think we're evil because we're telling them the truth. You see? Yeah, none of you Edomites can go up in a chariot. None of you Edomites have salvation. None of you heathen, matter of fact. Right? So that kind of stuff, they're telling them the truth, that we become their enemies, like I read in Galatians 4:16. But also, they think when they kill us, oh, we put that wicked man to death. That's what they were thinking with Yahawahshi. It says, verse 3, and these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me. Okay? So they don't know the truth. They don't understand the truth. They're not set up to receive the true knowledge. That's why they're going to think they're doing the Most High's service when they persecute us, when they try to kill us. You know? Luke 23. So, let's see. Let me read this quicker. I was going to just cut it off there, but let me keep reading, because I got to get back to the plantation. It says, and we, let's see. It says, where am I at? Dang, where did I leave off? Yeah. Verse 36, and the soldiers also mocked him, coming to him, offering him vinegar, and saying, if thou be the king of the Jews, save thyself. They're going to be doing this shit to us. Oh, you're a man of the Lord. You've been calling yourself a man of the Lord. Then save yourself. Why are you in a FEMA camp? Why are you hemmed up? You know? Can't you get away if you're the man of the Lord? They're going to be telling us things like this. They're going to be telling us worse shit, man. And a superscription also written over him in the letters of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, this is the King of the Jews. All right? And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, if thou be Hamashiach, save thyself and us. But the other answering rebuked him, saying, dost not thou fear the Most High, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive due reward for our deeds, but this man hath done nothing amiss. And he said unto Yahawahshi, Hamashiach, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. And Yahawahshi said unto him, verily, I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Hey, that's beautiful, man. And Elder Apostle Tahar speaks on this. How, hey, to repent, this is what it is. This man repented at the last moments of his life. And he was going to be, Yahawahshi said it, you're going to be with me in the kingdom, in the paradise. Because the way he looked at the other guy was like, yo, take us up. Let's get us off these crosses. You know, because they were getting crucified along with Yahawahshi. He said, save yourself and save us. And the other dude's like, yo, man, you deserve to die, man. You've been a wicked-ass nigga. You've been a wicked-ass Israelite. This man hadn't done nothing. He just said, look, we deserve what's happening to us. And then he said to Yahawahshi, hey, what was the man, think about that. That powerful spirit, that's a powerful spirit that was on that malefactor, a.k.a. criminal. He said, hey, Yahawahshi, just remember me in the kingdom. You know? Humble. You see? He wasn't worried about getting away, getting escaped, by some miracle from Yahawahshi. No, he told him right there, hey, look, this is, just remember me. He was ready to die. And he believed Yahawahshi was the Hamashiach. He said, hey, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. That's beautiful, bros. That's beautiful, man. I don't know how else the other way to put it, but that's a beautiful, beautiful verse. Okay? Verse 43, and Yahawahshi said unto him, verily, I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Why? Because they were both going to the spirit realm. Because they were both getting put to death. Verse 44, and it was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. So that was that eclipse, right? And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Yahawahshi had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the spirit. Now when the centurion saw what was done, he glorified the Most High, saying, certainly this was a righteous man. And all the people came together to that sight, beholding the things which were done, smote their breasts and returned. And all his acquaintance and the women that followed him from Galilee stood afar off, beholding these things. So they all saw. They saw the centurion too, which he's like a Roman soldier. He saw. He's like, man, this was Yahawahshi. This was the Hamashiach. The same. Oh, sorry. 50. I better read this quick. And behold, there was a named Joseph, a counselor, and he was a good man and a just. The same had not consented to the counsel and the deed of them. He was of Arimathea, a city of the Jews, who also himself waited for the kingdom of the Most High. Right, so Joseph, he wasn't one of the ones saying, crucify Yahawahshi. He believed he was the son of the Most High. And he had faith. Remember, no miracle is done without faith. Verse 52, this man went unto Pilate and begged the body of Yahawahshi, and he took it down and wrapped it in linen and laid it in a sepulchre that was hewn in stone, wherein never man before was laid. And that day was the preparation, and the Shabbat drew on. And the women also which came with him from Galilee followed after, and beheld the sepulchre, and how his body was laid. And they returned and prepared spices and ointments, and rested the Shabbat day according to the commandment. Right, so Yahawahshi, they crucified him on the Shabbat. Was that spiritual, You had the believers, they were keeping the custom. They were doing the, bringing spices, bringing the ointments, keeping the Shabbat, right? But hey, I got to get back to work. I hope the lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawahshi, Bahashem, Rakah, Kudash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge Al-Akim, who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom, shalom.